Morning, my name is David Book. I'm a transfer student from NPC. I've spent the last 2 years at CSUMB working on lots of things and spending a ton of time on my capstone project, Buzztouch. A little bit of background on what how Buzztouch started. I'm a little bit older than a lot of the other students and have been doing some development work before my time here at the school. And I was experimenting with some mobile technologies and some ideas about 3 years ago about where the mobile space might go and how we might all be using mobile more. I was kind of trying to figure out how I might participate in that. And then when I started here and I learned about the capstone requirement and the need to kind of come up with an idea and formalize a project, a big scale project ideally, a project that would kind of demonstrate what you learned and how you can bring all these different technologies together and solve a problem, I was thinking about how I would do it in mobile. And in my very first class, my very first semester, an ethics class, a spirited debate broke out between a few of us related to some of the different phones and some of the different operating systems, and specifically the idea of Apple being closed and how we couldn't put software on our phones. And there was the pros and the cons of all of that. But at that moment, it occurred to me that there is a significant number of people out there that I was unaware of that wanted to put software on their own phone and couldn't. Sometimes it was because of the rules or their account or their service provider, and sometimes it was because of something as easy as the hardware they chose, Apple in this case. So the idea was born to try to create a system that would not only help people put software on their phones, but to help them create it. Because it also occurred to me that not very many people understand how these things work, and if we could put this all together in a web-based control panel, we could solve a lot of problems for a lot of people, I thought. This was all a hunch. So off I went with my project that's been 2 years in the making. And the problems that I set out to solve, in a nutshell, was could we make application creation easier? Could those applications that you created work on a lot of different types of devices? So that if you spent the time to learn how to make a piece of software with whatever I came up with, it should work on a lot of different devices. Could we get around these sophisticated tools that were really, really hard to work with and allow normal non-programmers to try to experience this mobile revolution, so to speak? Could we get around the idea that there's a ton of developers that are just missing? Technology's moving faster than the training and the education space process, and because of that, it's hard to find a developer. So could we do this without having a developer? And could we distribute the software that we created when we were done without some of these complex problems? So that was the goal, big goal. But I had 2 years, right? So the solution that I came up with, conceptually and right from the beginning with a lot of enthusiasm, just testing and trying to figure this out, was let's put a web-based application builder or content management system in the browser instead of on your computer so you could access it from anywhere. And let's put all that content that you create and you design and you experiment with in a centralized place so that the phones could just access this centralized database and operate the way you want. I thought if there was a community of people participating in this, it would make it easier for everyone else to explore and share their ideas and really try to see if we could accomplish something. So that was my idea, a database, some software on a web browser, and a community. That's what started this whole thing. So how I actually did it, it's quite a bit more sophisticated than I have time to explain, but really, at its core, it was developing 3 different things at the same time. So concurrently, I was trying to come up with this database structure to try to figure out how to hold all this information. Back. At the same time, I was trying to figure out how the interface would work in the browser for people trying to build these applications. And then lastly, the software that goes on the phones itself, there's some kind of an engine that would need to be installed on the phone to make this all work. So that was the methodology that I use. And of course, at the same time, I'm trying to support this forum. So a couple of weeks ago when I made this slide, there were only about 6,000 comments and over 1,000 different questions, and lots of people all over the world trying to figure out how this worked, and I was like the only guy answering. That was another deal. That's getting easier. So the tools that I used are understandable by some and completely complex and cryptic and mysterious for others. Hopefully a lot of people here will understand what these are. Xcode and Eclipse are the environments that you use traditionally to compile mobile software that you make. PHP, like Mark and Randy talked about, is a kind of a web technology language that communicates with databases. A database engine, MySQL, Apache, web server. A lot of design tools like Photoshop and Illustrator to try to come up with this the way it was supposed to look. I'm a design major after all, right? I came to this school to try to sharpen my skills in design. I was very confident and technical, but I had no confidence and a ton of anxiety about what I created and was it professional looking and did it appear, was it sellable? You know, did you make your living making this stuff? So I learned a ton about design. And then of course a bunch of hardware. There's piles of phones on my desk and all kinds of things. So I learned a ton of things. Some of the more significant things that I learned is big problems are worth solving. It sometimes seems not worth it to try to take a big abstract idea and spend a couple of years solving it. That's hard for some people to consider. But I can tell you that the payoffs are good. This has blossomed into a legitimate business. I'm sure it will provide for a lot of folks in the not too distant future. In only 2 years, there's some significant success in terms of traffic, and I'll talk about that in one sec. After a quick list of thank yous, my wife, Lynn, is amazing. Be 19 years this year, and she's tolerated my enthusiasm for every one of them. It's awesome. My children, Austin and Paige. Paige was able to make it. She cut school today to come out here and hang out. My business partner. Oh, what is going on here? I'm clicking. I'll stop. My business partner, Stephen. You talk about patience. It's expensive to explore, and when your partner decides he's going to go off and go back to college and play with the kids, what a great guy to allow me to not only do that, but to support me along the way like no one else has. Kevin Cahill, my advisor, tremendous. My classmates, 25,000 people helping me online. I'll talk about that real fast, and then I'll be done. The success of this, it's pretty amazing. About 15,000 people, 15,000 different people a month are using the site. They're visiting the site about 30,000 times in a month. There's tens of thousands of mobile applications powered by this back end now. Some of them are for profit, some of them are for charities. There's all kinds of things. All different kinds of phones, all over the world. It's about 80 countries now. And it's a capstone from CSUMB, right? Part of that success, of course, is there's nothing for sale on the site. It's free. So certainly that has something to do with the excitement and the traction, but we'll change that soon enough. Thank you very much.